Picking up where we left off, Ben is trying to escape both Victor and the Scare, and this plays out the same except that he transforms into Buzzshock instead of gray matter, and begins to charge up his electricity and run it through the light system, making it brighter in the area and giving himself time to escape. Buzzshock thinks to himself that he needs to come up with something fast, and then decides he knows just who could do it, before hitting the Omnitrix symbol and going gray matter, and it begins to look around the area for anything useful, starting to take things apart. While the Scare is looking for Ben, we see that Max and Gwen are going to bring the shuttle back to Earth, though we also see the mummy was on board as well. While looking around for Ben, Victor questions why they are even doing so with the plan being so close to being completed. The Scare then throwing him around and telling him that Ben could ruin everything they've worked for. As gray matter, Ben then found some unattended controls and tried to contact the shuttle to see if anyone was on board. After Max answers, we get the episode playing normally with gray matter explaining everything to them about the corrodium beams and about how Victor brought back the Scare somehow. The mummy then grabs Max and Gwen as we see Charmcaster sneaking inside where Ben was, using a spell to make herself untraceable. We get Victor grabbing Ben and throwing him over to the Scare with the Omnitrix sampling his DNA, giving Ben another transformation, as Charmcaster watches ready to help out when the time was right. Taking out a small gun-shaped device with a bulb in it, Ben then activates it, blasting a ray at the Scare, making him cry out in pain before flying away, as Ben says it's a sun gun, courtesy of gray matter, though Victor then tries to attack Ben for doing that. When Victor tries to attack Ben, Charmcaster then flies in and casts a reversal spell, sending Victor's lightning back at him and shooting him back into the device, causing him to be fried by electricity. Ben says nice one, as she asks if he can get them into space. Looking around, Ben sees something he could use and check the watch to see it flash from red to green. He nods and tells her, there, pointing to a pod of some sort, and they run over, getting it open and going inside. Ben then hits the watch going upgrade and begins to fuse with the pod before then making it sprout legs and walking it over to some engine thruster parts. Using the two together with himself, he'd created a makeshift rocket, telling Charmcaster, strap in, it's gonna be a bumpy ride, before starting up the engine as Victor comes to and tries to grab the rocket as they blast off, with Victor hanging on as he tries to zap Upgrade, who charged up a laser and shot him in the face, before punching him in the face with a stretched out arm tendril as they continue to fly off to the station. Cutting to the station, we see the mummy putting the corrodium away in some sort of device as purple electricity starts to come from it, and it disappears with the device starting to glow purple. Once they got to the space station, Ben detached the engine part of the rocket, keeping only the pod as he outstretched his arm, grabbing onto an airlock and attaching the pod to the side before taking over the chamber, opening it up and letting Charmcaster inside. After making sure the outer lock was secure, he opened up the main chamber lock and timed out again, stating that was close as he looked exhausted, with Charmcaster taking the lead as they went to try to find the main controls of the station. When they get to the controls, they find the mummy fighting with Max and Gwen, and Ben suggesting the airlock. When Max opens it up, Charmcaster uses a spell to blast them inside and then close it quickly, launching the mummy out into space. The controls start to realign as we see the Scare appearing from the air, moving the controls. When Ben asks how he'd gotten there, he stated Ben wasn't the only one to hitch a ride on a rocket. The Scare gets the beam activated, with the episode then getting back on track as Ben uses his new transformation to fight against the Scare as they are both pulled through the floor and out into space, with Ben magnetizing himself to the outer layer of the station. While they are fighting, Ben fires off powerful electric blasts, smirking as the Scare fires a beam of energy as well, as Ben starts to overpower them, but the two attacks cut out as they both ran out of energy. Not bad for a new form, however, even this nameless failure won't stop me, the Scare then mocks. Ben then raises an eyebrow and says, given the power, I'm thinking Frankenstrike, before he starts to charge up another attack, and the Scare begins to do the same while we see the space shuttle detach from the space station. We get the mummy grabbing Ben and the dogfight between Victor and Max, with the latter doing the same as in the show, causing Victor to crash into the transmitter, causing it to break apart. Victor fires some strange laser that creates some weird glowing vortex that sucks the mummy inside, and Ben zaps Victor into it too. He then catches up to Max and the gang, whom were all in the space shuttle this time, instead of having to go get Gwen out of there. All of them are relaxing in the hazmat spacesuits, with Ben talking about how they all just saved the world again, and how no one would know, as usual, but at least they all knew it. Though he's grabbed by Zaskare and pulled out the main cockpit, with Zaskare yelling at him for screwing up his plans again, telling him it'd be the last. Gwen opens the large hatch and calls for Max, who turns the ship so that the open hatch now let in all the sunlight, taking out Zaskare, hopefully for good this time. We then see the ship was starting to break apart, as we see a green flash, and then cut to Cannonbolt in his ball form flying downwards onto the ground at super speed. After impact, Cannonbolt opens up, letting out a groan, as we see that thankfully all three of the others were okay.